Hi, this video will provide an overview of system architect support for NAF 4, the NATO Architecture Framework version 4. I have a diagram here opened up that gives the high-level view of this search and rescue example in this encyclopedia, and I'm looking at search and rescue future state B. So an encyclopedia can be layered into workspaces for different versions of the architecture. And what we see here is a high-level representation on an L1 node tree diagram type that shows the overall architecture and then different versions of it, which we could branch to: current state architecture, future state architecture. We could take a look at that in a little bit. But we also have in here an operational architecture and a resource architecture. And this little symbol here, this down arrow, shows me I can drill on that. That's a parent-child indicator. And we can drill down in this operational architecture to see more of it. We'll do that in a second. I have another diagram here, which is also an L1 node tree high level of the architecture. Search and rescue, this is the architectural description, which will include information, very high level, the skinny of the architecture. Here we see projects that fulfill that architecture. We have locations where the architecture is valid for, conditions, etc., all part of the NAF spec. But I'll go back to that first diagram, and we can drill down, and before we do, we can also look at the architecture through the Explorer tree. So what I like to do is choose View Diagram Preview and get a quick look of all of the different views or viewpoints of this architecture, or diagram, some people call them. But so this is another way you can open up these diagrams directly from the Explorer tree. Another way to navigate. So let's start drilling down. Now you see, as I move over things, they get highlighted. That is a feature called mouse over highlighting. You can select different variants of it so that the next and the next thing gets highlighted, so you can kind of view an architecture that way. But I'll just turn it to symbol highlighting, and let's start drilling down. So let's drill from this operational architecture symbol down a level. So now we're down at the this is the L2, L3 conceptual view of the architecture. This is a picture that was brought in from a PowerPoint. You can build these conceptual views as well in the tool. And you have a draw toolbar here, which has a lot of the different concepts and artifact types of NAF 4 on which to draw. So I can come in here and create a new, say, organization or service interface. Let's build a new performer in here. So search and rescue team. Okay, might be a new performer, and I can show that in its normal rectangle. I can click this Mona Lisa button and swing it to the default for a performer, which looks like that. I could swing it one more time, and now it's showing with the icon in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, and then also you may want to bring your own icons in, and so you can do that as well. So I'm going to move a little bit here and go over to my desktop, where I have some icons from Microsoft Azure, and I'll just find an icon. These are all SVGs, and I can drag in. Let's move in some artificial intelligence into our search and rescue. So let's have a bot service. We drag it into the workspace, and we're asked if we want to copy it, if we want to import it into the files table of this encyclopedia for future reference, or just reference it. I'm going to copy it in. and it looks kind of small on my diagram workspace, but it's an SVG, it's a vector image, so I can move it out. Now let me just turn off diagram format, display options, node symbol, so we remove the shadowing. And so this is my icon from Azure or any SVG that you can pull off the internet. And now this is a picture. It's a simple picture at this point, and I can say it's a AI bot service. And so I can start building this conceptual diagram with my own images if I chose to do it that way. Now, very powerful here. I can, again, this is a picture, a simple picture, but what I can do is right mouse click on it and transform the symbol into an artifact of the NATO Architecture Framework. So I can say, well, this is really a performer. And once I do that, I name it, becomes a performer, and now it becomes part of my architecture, and I can again hit my Mona Lisa button and show it that way. So that's a powerful new feature in the product. In the last couple of releases, we put it in and refined it to enable you to bring in your own images and then make them part of the architecture. If I looked at this definition type, I would see that there's a property at the end here where the symbol depiction is overriding the normal graphic. In this case, normally a performer, as we saw before, looks like that. So this is overriding it. And the symbol property can also override it in the definition property. So just a little bit there on modeling with your own images in the tool. So now let's go down and drill a little bit. This conceptual model of what the search and rescue architecture should contain, we're going to drill on that because we see a little down arrow, and let's see what we've got. So we have now a high-level capability hierarchy. This is the C1 capability taxonomy view, and these are capabilities and a hierarchy of capabilities, and this is all data centric. If I were to say add a new capability to the diagram, say land search, let's say mountain search is a part of land search, okay, and if I then take a look at that, it knows its parent immediately, and the parent would know its child. And that data centricity you'll see through the tool, whether you put on a hierarchy diagram one symbol hooked up underneath another, or one box and another box if they're represented in that kind of a diagram. And we'll take a look at that in a second. And I'm going to flip that so that I have the little capability in the upper right hand corner, but I see these are green and this is blue. So another little modeling thing in the tool, I can come to right mouse click and choose symbol format, copy style, and then choose the other symbol and apply the, say, the fill color, right, and change that if I wanted to. So let's drill down and on this search and rescue capability and see what we have. So we have now search and rescue capability maps. So let's take a look at this one. So now this is a custom diagram. So one of System Architect's known features is the ability to customize its meta model to great breadth and depth and easily. And so most of our customers use this capability and love it. The ability to add new artifact types or definition types, new properties, especially important if you're trying to bring information in the organization from a spreadsheet, from some other third-party tool, and you need to have the meta model match what's out there. The NAF meta model out of the box can't possibly match every source of record out there, costing information of systems delivered in a variety of ways, whatever it is. So the customization of the meta model is very key. And so here, I've taken the liberty of creating, since the NAF specification doesn't have a capability map, which is capabilities inside capabilities, I've created one here. So this is a custom diagram. It's a fit-for-purpose view, and you can see it here in the browser, capability map NAFX. I put an X next to it for extension, and I didn't put a C1, C2 on the front of it. I could if I wanted to. But so this diagram represents the same information as the prior, which was a hierarchy of capabilities, but now we're seeing them a box within a box. So this capability knows what its parent is. And same as before, if I added a new capability, let's say an assistance, ground assistance, as a new capability, and I move that within this box, that ground assistance knows immediately its parent. So that's that, again, that data centricity, which you'll see throughout. Now, this diagram, I've made some, besides creating a diagram through custom meta model, I've also made some new properties available in here. So I've said different kinds of capabilities. So this is a operational capability. Strategic ranking, I created a new tab, and I specified it should be to the front, the second tab in. And I said these capabilities will have a ranking: strategic, core, nice to have, or not assigned. They're going to have a benefit assessment: traditional, low benefit, moderate benefit, or transformational, I should say. And so my new capability here, let me add some properties for it. This is going to be an operational capability, and this is going to be strategic and transformational. So that's interesting, but even more interesting, I can open up my heat map manager and see some reports that I built to analyze the architecture. So I built several analytics here that will color the capability based on its strategic ranking, and I can run those analytics. So each one runs a report of different type, gets information, and does something to the analytic, in this case, coloring them. So I can quickly see, I see I have a little legend there on the right, but I can quickly see which of my capabilities are nice to have, strategic. This one is nice to have, right? And some are strategic and some are core. So that's just a very simple example of analytics. These analytics are built through a wizard. So you have a little wizard here that when you run it, you're asked to specify the name of the analytic. Here's my analytic as an example. And then you specify a report for the analytic. And then you create that report and you go into the SQL query reporting engine of System Architect, another powerful feature of the tool. And so I can say, you know, get me definitions where its capability and a certain property, like for example, the audit is equal to a certain value. You'll find out capabilities created by a certain person, or any property that's in here within a capability definition, including those you've added through the custom meta model. User props is in here, so you can specify values, and you can also go down levels. You can say capability is related to, say, an activity, is related to a system. And so you can build fairly sophisticated reports. I won't build one here, but you can build fairly sophisticated reports to say, color a capability green, or put a little icon in the upper right-hand corner of a gauge pointing at green if the activity that provides the capability, that activity is done by a system that costs a certain amount of money, right? You can go down many levels and create any report that you want to show information on a diagram. So this one's very simple. It's just looking one level in at that capability to see if it's what its strategic ranking is and coloring. But we'll see another example later on that as well. So that's analytics. And these analytics, by the way, as you create them here, they become part of the architecture. So if you look over here in the Explorer tree, here are all my analytics. If I looked at that one here, core capabilities, here's the report that is running to get that information, and I can edit that report if I wanted to. And then this is what the analytic is doing. It's coloring it purple, and I can change the font, the pen, specify a particular icon to use, specify the location of the icon. I can overload this diagram with many analytics, many reports, putting icons across the top, bottom, left, right, what have you. And we'll show an example later. So that's very powerful in viewing your architecture and analyzing it. Now let's go back to upper level. So what we've got. So we're back on search and rescue. Let's go down. Now this other diagram I already did. This is with analytics already applied. So I had already done this example previously. And now I want to drive down on, I see an arrow here. So I'm just doing a parent-child navigation through the architecture. So I get down to a, let's see what this is, I'm going to close my heat map because it's refreshing every time. So this is a C2 enterprise vision diagram where we have capabilities and the activities that do them. The relationship here is maps to capability. This is an explicit join. And then I see I have additional down arrows, so I can do a quick, from this marine search, let's go down and see what we've got. We have a BPMN style diagram and then an L4 activity diagram. So here we have one of the core diagrams of NAF, which is showing the operational activities. These are operational activities, and these are operational performers that perform those activities. And the relationship is the performs in context, where you're specifying, this is essentially an alias of role. The performer performs an activity, and therefore in doing so is performing a role. And when doing that activity, it's doing it, and we can put in, there's nothing filled in here, but we can specify where and when and under what conditions that performer performs that activity. So I'm not sure if some of these are filled in. Let's see if I can find one that is. So here we see this searcher is performing this activity, find victim, in an ocean location. And there's a condition here, sea state 8 or less. And in System Architect, you click choices to see what's out there that you can drag in, and right mouse click and choose details to see some details on any of those items. But you can also, in this case, add new conditions or where and when. If I click where here, I can see the list of location types that NAF supports, whether it be a country, a facility, a pure location, etc. Same thing with when I can see different measurement instances. So that is a performer performing an activity, and then the flow between activities, that's a operational activity edge, and you can see the producing and consuming activity, and then the resources that run across that, where the activity is transforming a resource. And so this isn't filled in either. Let's see if we have one here that's filled in with resources. We can add a resource. I'll just look one more time in here. All right, so here we have the activity received distress signal sends a flow of information over to send warning, and that's a distress signal, verified distress signal that gets sent over. So that's the resource. And again, you can add resources, and any kind of resource can be added here. It doesn't have to be just information. Anything that fits within the as specified in the NAF meta model. Now, the meta model we're using for NAF is the UAF meta model, which is derived from DODAF2, DM2, but with the additions of the DNDAF of Canadian framework, which adds security views. So anything in UAF is used here for NAF and renamed appropriately. So that is some of the core modeling that you'd be doing here. And of course, a part of the framework is that if a performer is performing an activity and another performer is performing an activity. So in this case here, rescuer is performing this activity, searcher is performing this activity, and the activities have information or resources sent between them, then there's an operational exchange between this role, this performer performing this activity, and this performer performing this activity, this role. So there's an operational exchange between here and here, and then also between itself, here and here, since it's doing both of these activities, etc. So you can model operational exchanges manually, or you can also use the tool to automatically generate the operational exchanges. So if I go to Tools, NAF Utilities, Generate Operational Exchanges, I am going to run that report. Now, I haven't made any changes, so it doesn't generate anything, but they've already been generated, and we'll take a look at them. But those operational exchanges are in our Explorer tree. So let's go down and see them. So here they are, generated previously, and there were some manual ones drawn. They're automatically numbered. And we'll take a look at a diagram where we can see those. And that would be the L3. So this has L3X. We provide this out of the box with System Architect. It is a fit for purpose view, so we put an X on it. But this is a view that enables you to see those performs in context role, which is the line between the performer and the activity, the relationship, and then also these operational exchanges, which are, in this case are auto-generated. This is number 6 here. You can see a generation tab where it's valid and it's SA controlled. And so this is a view of that. We also have the L6. And the L6 will also show those roles and the operational exchanges. So again, here is the performs in context role, which was a line on the first diagram, the line between performer and activity, and then a rectangular symbol on the diagram we just looked at. And here it's a lifeline on a sequence diagram. And here are those operational exchanges. Now they are put in in order, time order of which happens first, which happens second, etc. So let's bring this down a little bit. So this is the L6 view, and if we went back to so this is the high level now. This is the with the need lines. So these are need lines between performers, operational performers, and again there's a utility to generate need lines. And again, I don't think we're going to get any new ones. Well, we have some new ones in here. So these are need lines, and this is the L2 logical scenario diagram on which you can show the operational performers and the need lines, auto-generated or not. A lot of these are manual, search request. This is not controlled by system architects, so that's off. If it was auto-generated, that would be on. And we have an algorithm that we run so that when you run auto-generation, if you have drawn the need line itself or the operational exchange, we don't delete it or run over it unless you want to, depending on how you toggle switches. So there's a complex algorithm we run, a state chart on how we auto-generate. And we have customers, 50% of them love the auto-generation, 50% of them prefer to build their own need lines and operational exchanges, depending on how they're attacking the architecture, if they're driving bottom up or top down, typically. In any case, all of that is in here, the operational exchanges, need lines, the activity diagrams. Now let's go back to that L4, and I see here another drill down from find victim. So I'm gonna let's go down on that, drill down on that, and we get to in this case, this is a BPMN diagram, a pure process diagram. So this is a process flow. This is the L6, P6, S6 BPMN process flow, the pure BPMN meta model, where we're saying that that activity that we just drilled down from is orchestrated by processes, right? So here is a BPMN process. This is an event. So this is an event: arrive at last reported incident site, report on scene conditions and findings. We have a message flow to another swim lane, which is represents another performer, where another process happens. Receive report on scene conditions and findings. We have a gateway, etc., etc. So this is pure BPMN, and this is the NAF meta model is mapped down to BPMN, or BPMN is mapped up to NAF, I should say. So, for example, this process, you're specifying what it maps up to, what operational activity this process is orchestrating. And similarly with the swim lanes, you're saying this participant, which is BPMN specification, participant maps up to a NAF performer. I haven't done anything in here, but I can specify what performer of different types, operational performers, do this. So SAR, the search and rescue mission coordinator, I might either add one or use one that's already in here. I don't see anything I really like, so maybe I'll add one. So let me add a performer called mission coordinator, and I add that in here, right? So that's BPMN. A BPMN diagram can be simulated with our simulator option. You have all kinds of pure business process properties in here, like activity-based costing. You can also generate BPMN interchange from here to bring your BPMN into another business process tool, or bring other business process models from another tool into System Architect using the BPMN interchange. So this is pure BPMN. Let's drill back up. And drill back down again. Go to the child diagram. I think we had another one. No, we didn't. Let me go back up then. And go up one more level. So we're back to marine search. And let's go to find victim and go to its child diagram. We have a bunch here. So let's take a look. I'm going to go to search and rescue. We have a couple of service views and some resource or system views. So let's take a look at the service taxonomy fit for purpose view. So here we're into the world of services, and this is showing services and their service interfaces. And we have a toolbar that enables us to model service interfaces and services and persons and organizations and, quite frankly, any kind of performer, and start modeling out this diagram. And we can see that we have, in this case, search and rescue has, these are services within the service. And then we also have service interfaces. Let's drive back up and drill down again to this one here. This is another service diagram. This one has service interfaces placed inside the service, and we have service interfaces that are showing a service connection between the services. And so I could, for example, model another service interface. So a monitoring service has a monitor interface. Maybe it has a graphics interface as a service interface. And you can immediately see graphics interface was placed in there. So graphics interface knows it's part of that monitoring service and vice versa. Now, all of this is meant to enable you to see quickly information about an object. I can, in this case, I probably don't want it. The fact that monitor service is telling you what service interfaces are part of it, because they're visualized here. So I would want to right mouse click, choose display mode, and I can choose display mode for the symbol chosen for all symbols of that type on the diagram or across the entire encyclopedia. So I'm going to just choose, say, well, let me just choose this symbol and turn everything off. Whoops. And I'm missing a button here, save all, and close that. So I remove that display, and I just have the interfaces here. Now those interfaces are shown, the service interface, which is a node, or a port I should say, is shown as one box inside another here. If we go back up and drill down, there's another view here, the S1 service taxonomy with ports, which shows another view of ports on a service. So this is where you get this kind of a symbol. This is a service interface on a service. So you have, there's different views. In one view, you can put the service interface in a service. On another one, you put it on the edge. So, for example, coordination services, if I wanted to put a service interface on here, can see how that that service interface sticks to the side, right? I can't pull it off. It can only be drawn onto a particular symbol, and this one here has the name inside the box. I'll change that so that the text position of that is outside. It makes it a little better. All right, so that's ports in NAF. This is a service port. You can do the same with system ports. Let's go back up. Let's go to the child diagram again. Again, we had a lot of choices here. Let's now go to SAR 3. Now we're getting into a systems view. And here we have aircraft radio as a system, and that is, so that's a system. And again, we have some custom properties. So let's look at those. So this is a system in a system, right? Marine rescue aircraft contains the radio, contains the camera, contains the boat radio. If I, and this is the resource interface. And if I come in here and look at these custom properties that I've added system kind. I've also said in here, a new tab, new properties, line of business that uses the system. And I chose to create a new definition called, well, actually we reused, I should say, organization NAF. So these are lines of business. If we look at that, this is the response team. It is an internal line of business versus external. That was another custom property, and done in less than a minute. And then we also have the owning line of business that owns the system, and we can only have one here. We also have a portfolio management tab, which has system ranking, which has costs of the system, which has possibly costs per year of the system, cost per time period. So I can say in 2023, the purchase cost of this system is going to be $5,000, for example, and a maintenance cost of $1,000. And then in 2024, the maintenance cost will be $1,200, maybe there's a 20% increase, right? And if I look in those time periods, I can see those costs. Interestingly enough, I can reuse that information. If I go over to the boat radio, I can go to its portfolio management tab and see choices, and I see 2023 and 24, even though they belong to MR aircraft radio. Once I drag it in, it brings in that information, but it becomes rekeyed. So now that's a new definition, and so I can say the radio costs a little less. It's $3,000. Maintenance maybe is the same, and next year the maintenance is $1,100, right? And so that reusability of information. If I go to distress beacon, and I can go to portfolio management tab and click choices, now you see all four of them, and as you drag in, you're creating new versions of it, and that's an easy way to add information to the tool. In any case, I'm going to open up View Heat Map Manager. Again, we were here before, but on this diagram, I've got a bunch of analytics created to show information about these systems. And so I have the line of business that owns it. I have the kind of system it is. I have the users of the system. And again, this comes from a customer example. And I can run those analytics, each one running a report. We have about 15 reports running one after another. And it's going to do something to the diagram. You can see in the bottom left, those reports are running. And we get a nice little legend. And if we go closer on the diagram, you can see what was done here. We put the users of a system, the lines of business that use it, in the upper left-hand corner. We put the type of system dead in the center. We put the owner of the system in the right-hand corner. And so that's use of analytics, running reports, getting visuals on the information. Those analytics, again, just to show you, the analytic is, once you create it through the wizard, then the analytic becomes part of the encyclopedia. So let's look at LOB Logistics. That's a report-based. Here's the report. It goes out and gets a system that has a references an organization, where the organization is a member of organization's property, and then is going to be an organization where the name is logistics. Very simple report, but powerful. And then that's the report that runs, and then it's going to put this logistics SVG file, which we have in our files table of the encyclopedia that you can add to, and it's going to put it on the bottom right inside and size 20, right? And so that's what's happening here when we run these analytics. So that's SV1 and DODAF. NAF calls it the P2 resource structure diagram. Let's give you, we can go on and on for a very long time here covering NAF. Just a couple of more things here. The report generator provides a NAF report file. So here it is, at NAF4. And you have a number of reports that you can run here out of the box for different views. And you can build your own report readily in here. We have functionality to build sub-reports, which is an inner join in SQL. So you can have a report that, say, goes, for example, from capability to activity to system, and get the systems of a capability that provide a capability through the activity, or and then run another report to say go from capability down to maybe the data that's surfaced up through it or is needed, and run a sub-report. So you can have a consolidated report that goes and branches a lot of different ways with sub-reports. Let's just build a real simple report, capabilities. And what you do is definitions of type capability. And here's that, getting specific capabilities that meet certain criteria, but I'll just get it all capabilities, and then properties to print, a name of a capability. And here I can change the column header to say capability and run that. Now that'll run to a grid, and that's interesting, and you can save that. But let's make this report a little more interesting. Let's go down a level and say references definitions, and see instead of references, let me use a capability comprises definitions. And so we'll use that maps to capability, and then go down another level and use comprises again, and get the operational activities. And for the operational activities, choose their name and run that. So our report becomes a little more informational. We now have the capabilities and the activities that provide them, and I can go down another layer and say those activities get me the systems that they do, or that provide those capabilities, get their name, and now we have a report that looks like this. And then what we can do, now this is only giving us information where there's a hit on each level. What I can do is go up to the highest level and choose partial, or choose that at any level if I wanted to, and then generate a report that gets me all capabilities, whether or not they have an activity doing them or not. The same thing with systems. So now I see, wow, my architecture is missing some information. I got some work to do, or not, to assign activities to these capabilities. And the nice thing about the grid, I can double click on any cell and open the definition of that cell directly. So we see there, I just open up Find Victim and get to the definition. You can save this to Excel, etc. You can also take these reports out to HTML and just put a place for them to go to. So let's choose capabilities as the name of the report. Choose a style sheet. We'll provide you with a bunch. I use HTML tables a lot. Generate that, and you'll get an HTML version of that report. There's my report, the same report that we saw in Grid. This is in HTML. Now we have an add-in called SA Publisher that enables you to generate groupings of reports to a website, creates an entire website, sophisticated website. But that's we'll look at that on another demo. But that's an add-in. That's a special add-in. It's usually one license per customer, and they build out a website so that the entire organization or the entire world can see the architecture quickly. It's a website that you can just post somewhere and have people navigate through with diagrams and drill-on diagrams, etc. as a HTML SVG. So I guess one more thing here while we're in, there's so many views, but I did want to show, and let's go over here, my diagram preview, and let's go down to the roadmap marker diagram. So this is a view of systems or projects or really any artifact that you want to model. And in terms of its time, the fourth element. And this is a system roadmap for the ComSys 202. And this diagram is showing that we have a start date, an end date, and we have the content. So we're looking at two systems, actually, Compass and ComSystem 2. And one is a system, one is a software element. And in that system, we're back to the same system definition, but if we go out to the roadmap marker tab, we'll see the time periods, design, build, test, deploy of that system. And how that diagram is built, we can build one here quickly, is let's see, a roadmap. Let's just call it roadmap. I haven't chosen what system I'm going to do yet. And let's drop a roadmap element. I'll change the name of this later. And we then go out to the roadmap marker tab, choose a start date. Let's make that 1/20, and then an end date. And let's make that out to 2024. And then we can choose month, day, time as the interval unit. Roadmap content. So here we can see what we can model a roadmap for: capabilities, organizations, persons, posts, projects, resources, services, software, systems. And I know we have ComSys 2. Let's model, say, the GPS system. And if we go in here to its roadmap marker tab, right, we can start specifying time periods. We can reuse some time periods. Let's reuse build. design, deploy, and test. Not in that order. We're grabbing the dates from the other system, and let's change this so that design is first, then we build it, then we test it, and design, build, test, deploy. Okay, and we probably don't have the right dates in here for this, so let's go over here. Yes, we have dates from 2022 and 2023, so we want to change some of these dates. Let's do that here. Let's make this 23, and I would normally type these dates in straight away, but I'm just trying to save some time here and reuse some things and change them. And for each of these, I can choose the color. So we selected a color there. Let me change that to a different kind of green. Build has a color. Test has a color yellow, and deploy has a color black. That's a milestone, by the way, whereas the others are time periods. And if we click OK here, we can see now the beginning of the building of a roadmap for that system, and we can color this as well. Make that gray, right? So so that's the building of a roadmap marker diagram. I'll leave it there. There's a lot more. We have explorer diagrams for automatic generation of visual reports, cause-effect analysis, landscape heat map analysis, references. We also have the ability to create the workspaces, which I promised at the front end. Everything you've seen so far is in future state B, and if I try to open up this encyclopedia, I get a choice of different workspaces to open. Once you're in, everything is what you see. You don't realize you're in another workspace, but as you add and delete and modify information, it really is a whole nother workspace that you're in. You can compare across workspaces, you can merge across workspaces. Everything we've seen so far is in future state B. We have videos on the YouTube channel on explorer diagrams, on dashboards in the XT tool, and reports, and the essay publisher outputs. So that's more on general abilities of the tool with any framework. I wanted to cover in this video specifically NAF support. So thank you for watching.